I was on my way home from work driving my car on the highway when I noticed something very strange on the side of the highway. There was a baby inside a little box, just like the one we see in movies left on doorsteps. I pulled over to see that I wasn't imagining things. I approached the box and I was shocked to see that it was a real baby crying. I held the baby and tried to calm him down. Who the hell leaves their baby like that? What is wrong with people these days? And just as I was about to call the police, I noticed that two men wearing masks were stealing my car. Where did they come from? How did they get here so fast? They were on a motorcycle. One of them got off and got inside my car, and the other kept on driving the motorcycle. I watched him in utter panic as he used the keys that I had left in the car to run away with it. I ran after my car with the baby in my arms, screaming, "Hey, hey, both of you, stop!" But they didn't. There was no one around to ask to help me. We were on a highway. Damn it! The car disappeared before my eyes in seconds, and I was pissed. That car was the most expensive thing I owned. It was a brand new Mercedes that I just got a month ago. It also had my bag and my wallet. How stupid was I to leave the keys inside it? The baby started crying more, and I was getting nervous. I had to think fast. I went back to the box where I found the baby. I put him in it and called the police, reporting what had happened. They told me to wait. Thankfully, there was a bag that had the baby's things. I made him a bottle the way I remember from the time I used to babysit. He calmed down when he started to eat, but I couldn't. I wish someone would come to take him so I can go look for my car. An hour passed. The baby was sleeping in my arms, but no one showed up. No one came to take the baby. The police hadn't arrived yet, and it was getting too hot. I couldn't stand still, so I just started waving for cars, hoping one would stop. I needed a ride to take me back to the city. 10 minutes later, a woman stopped to pick me up. I didn't want to complicate things, so I lied. I told her that my car broke down, and I needed a lift for me and my baby. "Oh, you poor thing! Get on. I'll take you where you need to go," she said. So I took the baby's bag and got on with her. She was so good to me to the point she drove me back to my house. What should I do now? What should I do with this baby? I called the police again. They came to my house and I explained the situation again. But this time they wanted to take the baby. I knew they were going to put him in foster care. I felt sorry for the baby. He didn't deserve to be left alone like this and abandoned in the middle of nowhere. He had done nothing wrong. So I asked if I could take care of him until they unravel the whole case. The police officer looked hesitant at first, but then he said, "That would be fine, but let us report the authorities first." And that's how I started taking care of him. I didn't know what his real name was, so I called him Lucas. And let me tell you, I've never pictured myself being a mom, but Lucas changed my mind. He was the cutest boy ever. I fell in love with him. Seeing him sleeping in my arms like an angel melted my heart, and seeing the little expressions he made with his face was just priceless. One day we were having a party at the office, and I took him with me. Everyone was happy to meet him, but Trey, my boss, held him and refused to let him go. He kept him in his arms all the time, and when it was time for me to leave, he kissed Lucas and looked very sad to say goodbye to him. I asked Sally, a coworker of mine, "Did you see that?" She responded, "Yeah, that's weird." But I didn't comment on it. I just took Lucas and left. And from that point on, Trey started acting more strangely. He started visiting me on a regular basis to see Lucas. He came on the weekend and brought toys for him. Sometimes he would visit me at night after we were off from work. And I can't say I liked it. It was getting too awkward. I mean, I wasn't comfortable with my boss being at my house for that amount of time. I knew he was a nice guy, but still, I needed my space. So one evening I decided to tell him. He was playing with Lucas, so I plucked up my courage and said, "I really appreciate your visits, Trey, and I can see that you fell in love with Lucas just like I did, but I think this is too much for me." He was embarrassed and quiet for a few moments, but then he said, "I am sorry for the inconvenience I caused you." Then he stood up to leave. I felt so horrible for doing that to him, but I had no other choice. The man was practically living with us. After he left, I heard a knock on my door. It was the police. The police officer told me that they couldn't find my car. They searched the area, but they couldn't trace it. As for Lucas, they will be putting him in foster care. I was devastated to hear the news. I didn't even care about the car anymore. I didn't want to lose Lucas. I couldn't imagine myself giving him away, so I said, I'll apply to adopt the baby. The police officer said, then you'll probably get custody because you saved his life. I was delighted to hear that. I get to keep Lucas for life. I went to work spreading the good news. Everyone congratulated me for making that decision. However, Trey wasn't feeling it. He looked irritated and upset, like I stole something from him. He didn't speak to me the whole day, and when I came to ask him about certain things, he ignored me completely. That was weird, but I didn't pay much attention to it. He probably was still pissed because I banned him from seeing Lucas anymore. But that was not it. When I headed to the adoption agency the next day to see if my application to adopt Lucas was approved, the manager told me that another couple was fighting to get Lucas. They were Trey and his wife Janet. What? How dare they? I found Lucas first, and I'll be the one taking him home with me. As soon as I got out of the office, I called him. Hey, listen, I don't care if you are my boss. You are not going to adopt Lucas. He's my son. I hung up feeling furious. Then I went home determined to fight for Lucas. I was not going to give up easily. And just as I was about to enter the house, I felt someone dragging me into a car. I tried to scream for help, but I couldn't because I soon passed out. I woke up later with my hands tied and my eyes blindfolded. It was quiet and a bit chilly. Anyone here? I shouted loudly. Oh, you finally woke up. A scary voice came from the dark. I shouted again, Who are you? What do you want? And the voice replied, I'm just a messenger. I'm here to warn you to give up that baby. Oh my God! Was I being threatened? What the hell is wrong with Trey? Then I felt someone behind me. He untied me and said, Give up the adoption. He left me and went running out of the room. I felt pain where my hands were tied. I rubbed them off and went out. I was in an area I've never been to before. I walked to the main road and I got a taxi and went home feeling terrified that something might have happened to Lucas. But thankfully, he was safe just like I left him with the babysitter. I held him in my arms. I cried silently. I was so scared there and I thought I was going to die. Trey could hurt me if I don't give up my application. He is a very powerful man. What should I do, Lucas? Lucas giggled. He thought I was playing with him. What if I tell the police? Maybe he'll end up kidnapping me. No. I shook my head denying that thought. Telling the police won't do me any good. I skipped work for 2 days, but then I decided to go. I needed to face Trey. If I can't stand up for myself, Trey would keep bugging me. I went to his office with the angriest look I had. I opened the door without knocking and yelled at his face. You think you can threaten me like that? Who do you think you are? If you don't stop this, I'm going to report you to the authorities, you crazy man. Surprisingly, Trey stared at me for a few seconds and then said with the most broken tone I've heard in my entire life, 20 years. I yelled, What? He said it again. For 20 years, my wife and I have been trying to have a baby. We've been through it all. He continued explaining that they tried everything, including the expensive procedures of IVF, and when they lost all hope, they tried to adopt. However, because they were old, they were always the last on the list. The minute he saw Lucas, he fell in love with him, and when he overheard my conversation with the police, he realized that he had a chance. So he went for it. I'm so sorry for what happened yesterday. I told the man to threaten you, not to kidnap you. And I understand if you want to report to the police. I was just desperate. He was feeling guilty. Somehow, I felt sorry for him, but I didn't show it. I just said, I'm not going to give up Lucas. That's my final answer. Then I left his office. That day, Trey dropped his application, and I felt like everything went back into place again. However, a week later, while I was shopping in the mall, I saw Janet, Trey's wife. She was looking at the baby's clothes at the display window. She was sad, almost heartbroken, and for no reason at all. I felt guilty. I couldn't stop thinking about her all night. The next day, it was my turn to go sign the final papers that would guarantee that Lucas would be mine forever. But when the judge asked me, Are you 100% sure that you want to adopt this baby? I found myself saying, No, I don't think so. Everyone was shocked. The judge's face turned red, thinking that I was playing a joke. But I felt it in my gut that I was doing the right thing. Lucas was not supposed to be mine. I can be a mother in the future, but now it was right for them to get Lucas. Trey and Janet got Lucas. They were crying when they held him for the first time. Trey came to me and hugged me, saying, "You have no idea what this means to us. You can come to see him anytime you want." I choked when I said, "I just hope you take good care of him. He was my first son, you know?" Trey smiled and said, "That's for sure." Trey wanted to reward me in his special way. He hired a private detective to look for my car. I woke up one morning to find it parked in my driveway. I'll be taking care of this baby then. What do you think of my story? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.